So what was the vested interest of the court to, thrust this man upon when he is refusing to? But he was there all through. So there was no, see, if you ask any lawyer, the basic structure of a case is built in the trial court.
Okay.
The whole structure of a case is built in the trial court.
Not in the Supreme Court.
No. In Supreme Court and High Courts, there's nothing to be built. They will examine what has happened in the trial court.
Okay.
So you examine, analyze evidence in the trial court. You cross-examine the witnesses there in the trial court. So this whole process is there. So if you don't have a lawyer there, how can you build your defense? How can you, put your side forth? So, see, the Afzal did not have a lawyer over there, which is on record. Now the trial court gives a judgment, and the judge was so prejudiced. Judge had, give you an example. Judge had actually decided this case long before the charge sheet was filed. I'll give you an example, an incident. The first day, of course, the Afzal and Shaukat, they were not kept with me in the jail. So I was alone, I was in solitary. When we were coming we were coming for the court date first time. So I met them in the lockup. They were saying, Afzal and Shaukat, they were saying, both said that, kind of, behavior, they met it to them in the jail and such. And they were really offered, they will say then, they have read about in the newspapers about the confession and all that, which they had never made, basically. It was, they had asked papers, they were asked to sign, papers, a lot of papers. And on that papers they wrote whatever they wanted, and that was, so that these people told me that, this has been happening so far. I told him, okay, forget about what happened till now, because till now it was police and other things. Now we are going to court, and I hope that courts will be fair to deal. So this was kind of, I was trying to give him kind of hope, because I had never had a brush with the courts before that. So there was a designated special court for us. First trial under quota. So though we entered the courtroom, four of us were there, then there were police officers and all that, the judge was there. Shaukat's wife, Afzal, she was also, she was crying. So judge after a while asked her, why are you crying? She said, I don't know why have I been arrested. I just want to know why I'm arrested. And why is if my husband has done something wrong. She was not saying, if you are accusing of my husband of doing something wrong, why am I being punished for that also? That was one. In reply to that, judge said, it's very strange to me also. Judge, what judge said? Judge did not ask her, to pacify her or something. He simply said, this, he said in Hindi, ye rona dona se ab kaam nahi chalega. You should have thought about this when you were conspiring to attack the parliament.
Without even talking, without even discussing.
Without, he is saying that you should have thought about this when you were conspiring to attack the parliament. Till then, it is 6 months prior to the submission of charge sheet by police. So even, charge sheet is not filed, but judge has decided that all these people have conspired and attacked the parliament. So you see that it is judge had already decided what to do. And many occasions, there was, this, when discussions were going on and arguments on. So judge many occasions said, in this court you don't need a PP, a public prosecutor. I am myself public prosecutor. He said in open court. So when you have this kind of judge, then you see what happens. And then this judge gives a judgment where he convicts all of us, and he gives us, three of us were given death sentence, me, Afzal and Shaukat. And Afzal was given 5 years in prison. Anyway, what happens after, like for example, the trial court's judgment was based on confession, Afzal's and Shaukat's confession. So Afzal was given a death sentence on the basis of confession. Shaukat was given on the basis of confession. Then it goes to the High Court. High Court also, upholds the trial court's judgment. So High Court judgment, High Court's death sentence, High Court acquits me and Afshan. And Afzal's and Shaukat's death sentence is upheld. And the High Court again says it is based on the confession. But the High Court also makes some observations. The observation is that High Court says that police has fabricated the evidence, forged the documents. It's part of this judgment. Very clearly said that police has fabricated the evidence, forged the documents. Even saying this, that they have fabricated evidence, forged documents, they don't pass even a stitcher against them. Forget about the punishment. They just simply say that why does this practice lead us? Courts are not there for us. They should have punished them. Under the same law, they can punish them. But they did not do so. Now you see, on the basis of this kind of investigation, where you find, even the law of this land says that you cannot, when you can give someone death sentence. And when you pronounce death sentence, you should establish the guilt of the person beyond the reasonable doubt. And how do you establish somebody's guilt beyond the reasonable doubt? When you have a foolproof investigation. Here is this investigation where your own courts say that police has fabricated the evidence, forged the documents. Even then you convict a person, sentence him to death. On that kind of shallow investigation, on that kind of fabricated and forged documents. Now you come to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says the High Court, trial court and High Court had the judgment based on the confession. When it comes to the Supreme Court first of all throws away the confession. They said this confession is not reliable. It has been, obtained under duress, falsely. So that confession goes. High Court also, exonerates Afzal of being a member of any terrorist organization. High Court says that it has not been established that he is a member of any terrorist organization, any unlawful organization. They exonerate him of other things, Explosive Act and other things. Now the Supreme Court throws out this confession. What remains there? Supreme Court says that there is no direct evidence which involves Afzal. There is no direct evidence. On the basis of circumstantial evidence, he is now convicted. So can you sentence someone to death on the basis of circumstantial evidence? The kind of circumstances which stand against Afzal. The first circumstance, I'll give you an example. For example, one circumstance is against him. They say that, one inspector, H.S. Gill, he deposed in the trial court that the dead bodies of 5 people who died inside the parliament were identified by Afzal. Alright? Now he deposed there. Afzal has denied it. Now the Supreme Court says that nobody has contested and cross-examined the Inspector H.S. Gill. That's why it stands against Afzal. Now you tell me, when Afzal did not have a lawyer in the trial court, who would have cross-examined this gentleman, this Inspector H.S. Gill, whose evidence in the court is taken as a gospel truth? Now I just want to tell you something about the H.S. Gill. This man, on basis of his evidence, gospel truth, a man is being sent to the gallows. Now you see how truthful this man is, that he has been arrested while our trial was on. He was arrested by the police and sent to jail on the basis, on a case of bribery. So he was in the same jail. Now you, on the basis of this unscrupulous person, on the basis of his statement, you are convicting someone to death. So this is how you establish somebody's guilt beyond the reasonable doubt. And the Supreme Court said there is no evidence, direct evidence against him, on the basis of circumstances. So now you have this circumstance that the Inspector H.S. Gill has. But who would have cross-examined him? When Afzal had no lawyer. Who would have suggested that he is lying when he has no lawyer? And in a criminal matter, you need someone very expert who is trained in the criminal law. The court has told Afzal, you can represent yourself of your own. How could an ordinary person who is not even aware of the law, defend himself in the court, trial court? Even an ordinary lawyer who practices in the civil side cannot do that, because this is an art. This needs a skill. Even a person who is not trained in the criminal law, a lawyer who is not trained in the criminal law, practice in the civil side, cannot do this. This is the cross-examination of the law. This evidence, appreciation of the evidence is, it's an art. And you are asking someone in such a highly sensitive and high-profile case, asking him to examine on your own. You're not providing him the legal assistance. Can you say, after all these things, can you say that this, the justice has been done to this man? Can anyone on earth say that the justice has been done to this man? From the word go till the end, on every step there is a discrimination. There is a prejudice against him. Because they want to make someone a scapegoat. They want to tell people that yes, we have caught someone who is behind this. They just want to show. Now you see the Supreme Court judgments. They say that, after saying all that he is exonerated, he is not part of any militant organization, he has been exonerated, there is no direct evidence against him, on the basis of circumstantial evidence. And that too, why? To satisfy the conscience of.
Yeah.
They just want to satisfy the conscience of the people. So that it comes that even the law of this land does not say that Afzal should be hanged, but it is Afzal's blood is needed to douse the flames of sentiments of people, certain people, to satisfy certain people. That's all. This one line speaks in volumes. To satisfy the collective conscience of the society. What is that collective conscience of society? What do you want to satisfy? You're not bound by the law. So it speaks in volumes that the whole trial was a political trial. The whole the judgment is based, it's a political judgment. It's not based on law. It is not, bound by the law, governed by the law. It's something else which actually under which this judgment is pronounced. So that's what Afzal thinks.
Excellent, sir. Really excellent. Tell us about the medias, the so-called English medias and the national medias.
As I told you, I told you about how media was projecting the whole thing. I mean that after this Iraq war, during the Iraq war there was one term came up which was embedded journalism, embedded journalists. So you find these embedded journalists here in everywhere. I mean, it is unfortunate that media claims to be free and fair, but if you see that this is a partisan media everywhere. But you see, as I have experienced when after our arrest, they never tried to see the other side of the story. Even during the trial, the media was present every day there. They would give the prosecution version.
Okay.
They will never talk what defense says. Never ever. So of course there was, in the beginning there was no public response was not well, because the public opinion is of course, created by
media.
So, unfortunately, as I said, that the democratic institutions have gone hollow here in this country completely. There was a reflection of that in after this case also. Even the Teachers Association as such did not prove their matter in this whole struggle. The University Teachers Association did not come forth to defend one of their members. No. And rather there were some adverse comments from the union. But there was an individually group of teachers who came forth and who fought for me. There was Delhi University Teachers Association in defense of Geelani. So there was an association who came forth. There were students also among them. So this was very adverse. I mean, there were, otherwise the role of, that's what I'm saying, that the trade union's role is something very different. It's a trade union. But in this regard, it was a completely different approach and a completely undemocratic. They never tried to hear on the other side of the story. They believed what was said by the agencies, and they acted on that. Even they forgot the rules, law of this land also. The law of this land says that somebody is if someone is accused of something, he remains innocent till he is convicted. But nobody followed even that law. Even, of course, forget about the other parties and this and that. I'm talking about the duty, the University Teachers Association. They were not there on this. They were, there were some adverse, of course, there was something against me. But there was nothing which was, but individually teachers came, individual teachers were there, they formed a committee which defended also. Of course, the public response. My family was, those days I was staying in Mukherjee Nagar. My landlord was picked up and some others, unnecessarily harassed and all. Basically, the police was also sort of trying to, pressurize him to give statements against me, which the gentleman did not, because though he was a Hindu, and the whole, he did not, because my behavior with him was very good always. And though I was in his house for the last 2 years, I stayed there. So there was a pressure on him also from the society. So after 6 months, my family had to sort of vacate that house. And now they were trying to find another house where they could stay. My kids did not get admission in any school during that time. And no, there are a lot of so-called progressive schools and this and that. None of them provided admission to my kids. No, my kids were, and I was, forced to send them back home. My son was too young to go to school. My daughter, I had to send her back to Kashmir to enroll in a school. So, and otherwise, after that 6 months when they vacated that house, they were, looking for house everywhere in every locality of Delhi. Nobody, once they come to know about that they are my family, nobody allowed them. And Sheila, there were stories in the media that I have a house, I have recently bought two, three houses in Delhi. One of them was a very, posh locality, and at that time it was of 22 or 25 crores, 25 lakhs rupees. That time, So then my younger brother, he went to the police and asked them, where is that 20 lakh rupees house which he has bought? Kindly, identify it so we can go and stay there. Because we are not able to get a house anywhere else. So what happened, after that, this Inspector Mohan Sharma told my brother, you will not get a house like that. You go, don't tell people that you are his brother and you are his family. And you will get the house. Everybody gets. You have to hide that part of your identity. So then they got a house somewhere where they did not reveal their identity in that manner. After my release, when I was released on TV and my family was seen around me, so the house owner, where they were sitting, of course, they were all in shock. We have been harboring these people for last. So it was kind of thing. So this is the kind of people's response. People don't, this is because media tells them what happens. In Afzal Guru's case also the same story. The media came up with all cooked up stories about him also. Now we see the truth is not told about Afzal Guru in media also. In Afzal Guru's, let us go see legally what is there. See, Afzal Guru did not have a lawyer in the trial court. It is on record. If a person is not able to, appoint a lawyer for himself or herself in the court, it is state's duty to provide him with a lawyer of his own choice. In this case, there was no lawyer was provided. Afzal Guru, on record, there are at least 5 applications of Afzal Guru on record where he requested for a lawyer. And he had given the names of lawyers. These lawyers were not approached. None of them was appointed for him. 1 or 2 might have been approached, others were not approached, and he was not given a lawyer of his choice. Instead, one Neeraj Bansal was thrusted upon him. And Afzal Guru in writing has given to the court that, this Neeraj Bansal is a communal. He cannot represent me. The person who is, basically against me, how can he represent me? If he is prejudiced against me, how can he represent me? Now it is on record in the court again. Court said, okay, he will not represent you, but he will assess the court. He will be amicus curiae, he will assess the court. Now what is the vested interest of the court to keep Neeraj Bansal there? Can I take this call?
Yeah, okay.